Hey Chem Kids, welcome back. I hope you successfully were able to complete your adding and subtracting with significant figures assignment. Now we're going to talk about the last sort of topic with significant figures for today. And that's going to be, how do we multiply and divide using significant figures? And really there's one rule, and I think this is actually one of the easier ways of, doing math with significant figures. But the rule is you round your answer so it has the same number of significant figures as the number with the least amount of significant figures. So you always first have to identify which number has the least number of significant figures, and that is how many significant figures your answer should have. So it's pretty simple and easy, and that's why I like it the most. So just sort of run through some examples of this so you see what I'm talking about. So my first ones can be 31.9 divided by 7.318. And we end up, if we put that into our calculators, we get this really big, nasty number. Well, to determine how many significant figures our answer should have, we go back to our first one, and we see our first two numbers, and we say, well, which one is the least number of significant figures? Well, if we look at our first number, they're all non-zero, which means they're all significant. Which means we have 3 significant figures in our first number. If we look at our second number, once again, they're all non-zero numbers, which means they're all significant. And we see that we have 4 significant figures. In this case, our rule is our answer will have the same number of significant figures as the number with the least amount. So in this case, it will have 3 significant figures. We'll round that to 3 significant figures, and finally, that'll be this point here, which means we have to look at this number, hit the 9 because it's greater than 5. We're going to round this up to a 6, and our final answer will be 4.36. Let's do another example. Let's say you have 30 times 13. Well, if we plug that into our calculator, because I don't expect you to know how to do this in your head, and you could do it on paper if you wanted to, but you definitely don't have to. That's a lot of extra work that I, quite frankly, don't want to do either. So we do 30 by 13, put that into our calculator, and we get 390. First, I have to say, how many significant figures? Well, we go back to our 2 original numbers, our 30 and 13. Well, 30 has a non-zero number, which means that's significant, but it has this 0 at the end. And we learned that if we think back, that if we have zeros after a number, they're only significant if we have a decimal place or a decimal point. And in this case, we don't. So our 30 only has 1 significant figure. We look at 13. Well, 13 has 2 non-zero numbers, which means they're both going to be significant. So in this case, we have 2 significant figures. We go back to the number with the least significant figures, and that's how many significant figures our answer has. So our answer should have 1 significant figure. So looking at 390, that means that we stop here. But we have numbers after that, so we have to do some rounding. Well, we look at the number directly behind that, and we see a 9. 9 is greater than 5, so we're going to report this as 400. And because there's no decimal points in this number, we only have 1 significant figure, because all of our leading zeros don't count. There's no decimal place. Pretty cool, right? Pretty simple. And we were right, we rounded to 400. One more example. Let's say we have 12 times 0.0025. Well, if we plug that into our calculator, we get 0.03. Very nice. I like that number. 0.03. The spare I'm in is like freaking. It's crazy. Well, we have to go back to our 2 numbers. Our first number has 2 non-zero digits, which are going to be significant, but we also have a 0 that comes after our number. But because we have a decimal point, that number is significant. That 0 is significant. So we have 3 significant figures in this. Now we look at our second number. We have 0.0025. Well, we know that the 2 and 5 are significant because non-zero numbers are always significant. However, our other rule is that any zeros that come before our number don't count. They're not significant. So this number really only has 2 significant figures, even though it has 5 numbers in it altogether. So we go back, we choose our number with the least amount of significant figures, and that is this one, 2 significant figures. So we need to round our answer to 2 significant figures. Well, if we look at our answer now, we say, well, 2 significant figures, that would really be a place right after the 3. Well, there is nothing after the 3. Well, this is where it gets kind of weird. If we need to round, and our answer needs 2 significant figures, and there's nothing after that 3. The way we can make this number have two significant figures and still mean the exact same thing is if we write our answer as 0.0 or 0.30, because this 0 that comes after our 3 is significant because we have a decimal. And that is how we could get this answer here, which only has one significant figure, is how we can force it to have two significant figures. We need our answer to have two significant figures based off the rules of multiplying and dividing numbers. We were correct. So, though that is the rule of multiplying and dividing, basically the only thing you have to remember with this is you have to say, well, which of my numbers that I'm multiplying and dividing has the least number of significant figures? And once you figure that out, that's how many significant figures your answer should have. So now that I've sort of walked you through how to multiply and divide with significant figures, I want you to go ahead and click on that wonderful Next button in the bottom of your Canvas page, and that will take you to your multiplying and dividing with significant figures practice problems that I want you to complete with your group. Once again, if you need any help, feel free to, you can send me an email if it's outside of class if you didn't quite get to this video, or if we're in class, go ahead and call for help for me, or hop over to the main session, leave your breakout room and say, hey, Mr. C, we need some help. And I'll be more than happy to come and help you out. Feel free to have me run by and check your answers too, if you would like me to do that, if you're not ever confident about your answers. Once you're finished with your assignment, go ahead and join us back in the main session so that we can kind of close out class for the day. Good luck, and if you need anything, just holler.